Hey there, welcome back to the podcast. Today, I want to walk you through a really important message from a concerned resident of Sterling Lakes who's weighing in on something happening with Municipal Utility District 31, or MUD31. Now, this isn't just a lot of bureaucratic talk, it's about how residents feel they're being treated when it comes to proposals that impact their neighborhood and their taxes. So, if you're curious about how community decisions, taxes, and accountability interconnect, stick around because this is a pretty detailed and heartfelt breakdown. Alright, so the core of this message is a response to some propositions that MUD31 has put on the ballot, specifically propositions A, B, and C. The resident highlights up front that Sterling Lakes residents aren't just automatically opposed to investing in their community. That's a critical point. They care about their neighborhood and want improvements, but are very frustrated about what they see as being misled or treated like an open checkbook. You don't want to be part of something where you're handing over money without knowing exactly how it's going to be used, right? One of the first things that really caught my attention is how the ballot language is presented. There's this big bold warning right before propositions A, B, and C that says this is a tax increase. Now, you might think that sounds harsh, but the resident explains that this is actually a legal requirement under state law. Apparently, the state changed the law so that voters would be given a plain and clear heads up anytime a local government or special district is asking for more taxes through bond or tax measures. So this isn't MUD31's clever attempt to scare people or discourage a yes vote. It's them following a mandatory transparency rule. But here's the catch. MUD31 hasn't been straight up about what these funds would be used for in a way that resonates with residents. The resident points out that Sterling Lakes folks might actually support Proposition A if they felt it was honest and clearly tied to the community's real needs. What does that mean exactly? Well, the suggestion is that if MUD31 had explicitly stated that funds from Prop A would be used to repair and maintain the retention ponds and lakes that MUD31 owns, as well as to fix infrastructure problems like the failing masonry walls, that would be something residents could get behind. The message also calls out the original builder, Lantasia's. It seems there were some construction shortcuts or problems that led to ongoing issues, like the West Pavilion still flooding even though LGI, the builder, claimed twice that the problem was fixed. Imagine living in a neighborhood where parts of your common areas flood after just a bit of rain. That's definitely a problem you want addressed. And the resident suggests that if the proposition committed to fixing things like this, residents would see a direct, tangible benefit. Moving on to Proposition B, the resident believes that Sterling Lakes could probably get behind it if it were more specific and clearly committed to basic, everyday fixes. Think about it, everyone notices faded lane markings, broken curbs, and cracked sidewalks. When you're driving or walking around your neighborhood and you see these things, it's frustrating, right? The resident is saying if Prop B had clear language like, we will restripe the roads, replace lane markers, repair curbs, and maintain sidewalks. Then residents would understand exactly what they're paying for and would be more likely to support it. The key here is transparency and accountability with specifics. But when it comes to Proposition C, the note is much more blunt. It needs to go away. Why? Because residents feel that MUD31 has already been raising taxes for the past 5 years, year after year, and adding yet another tax increase is just not acceptable. To many, that sends the wrong message. It makes it sound like Sterling Lakes is just a cash cow to cover the board's mistakes instead of a partner in the community. The residents calling out the board for what they perceive as a pattern of continually asking for more money without addressing the cause or being prudent with existing funds. Now here's a really powerful part. The resident reminds the board that MUD31 is the residents themselves. They are the taxpayers, they are the community, and that's such a crucial perspective often missing in these conversations. When you're dealing with local government entities like MUDs, it's easy to think of them as external bodies. But at the end of the day, they exist to serve the community, and the people are their real stakeholders. Many residents wish there was a plan on the table to aggressively pay down the existing bonds and eventually dissolve MUD31 altogether, especially if the district isn't offering solid solutions for the real problems Sterling Lakes faces every day. So, Mr. Hayes, the concerned resident who wrote this, has a couple of key suggestions and warnings for his neighbors in Sterling Lakes for when they approach the ballot. First, he recommends that folks read the ballot language for propositions A, B, and C carefully. Don't just glance or base your decisions on a headline or a few words. Actually take the time to understand what you're voting on. Secondly, he stresses that voters should understand why the phrase, "this is a tax increase," is there. It's there because state law requires it when local governments or special districts ask for new debt backed by taxes. That means it's not some sneaky tactic. It's a legal warning to make sure voters are informed up front. But the most important question, according to him, is whether these propositions are clearly and specifically tied to fixing actual problems, like the ponds, lakes, walls, pavilion drainage, roads, curbs, and sidewalks, or if residents are just being asked to write another check without real commitments or accountability. That's a huge deal because no one wants to throw their hard-earned money at vague promises. The final, and probably the most important sentiment expressed, is this. Sterling Lakes clearly does not want to be a cash cow for MUD31's mistakes. If the board truly wants community support, they must be honest, specific, and accountable. Hiding behind mandated ballot language while still asking for more money is not building trust or partnership. So, what do we learn from all this? Well, it's a reminder of how essential transparency is in any form of community governance. Voters and residents want to see clear connections between their money and tangible improvements, whether it's keeping ponds and lakes safe and clean, fixing the infrastructure that supports their homes, or maintaining the roads and sidewalks they use daily. They want the truth laid out plainly and concrete commitments to solving real problems, not vague language or more tax hikes to cover past mistakes. It also shows the power of community voices like Mr. Hayes's, residents who pay attention, analyze, and aren't afraid to ask hard questions. Having their concerns heard is the first step toward more accountable local government. It encourages other members of the community to get involved and demand the same level of clarity and respect. And it's a reminder, really, that tax increases aren't automatically good or bad. They're tools that need to be used carefully and responsibly. When communities see taxes going up, they want to be convinced they're getting real value and fixes for their neighborhoods, not just serving as a bottomless wallet. So before voting on anything like this, it's smart to dig into the details, understand exactly what you're being asked to pay for, and hold your local boards accountable to follow through on promises. It's about protecting your home, your finances, and your community's future. Thanks for listening in on this thorough look at a real neighborhoods fight to get clear answers and fairness when it comes to MUD31's propositions A, B, and C. If you live in a similar situation or just want to be a more informed voter in your own area, keep this in mind. Ask for specifics, look for accountability, and remember, it's your money and your community. All right, that's it for today. Catch you next time on the podcast.